rooster, too lazy to crow for day. I am a little red rooster, too lazy to crow for day. Keep everything in the barnyard upset in every way. Dogs begin a barking, hounds begin a howl. Dogs begin a barking, hounds begin a howl. Watch out, strange cat people, little red roosters on a prowl. If you see my little red rooster, please drive him home. If you see my little red rooster, please drive him home. Ain't had no peace in that farmyard since my little red rooster's been gone.
Hey, how you doing? Justin here. Today we are checking out Little Red Rooster for slide guitar, open G, kind of basing it on the Rolling Stones one. I'm going to take you through a lot of the Brian Jones kind of licks and stuff that we used in that particular version. We'll touch on the Howlin' Wolf one as well. One important thing to bear in mind though is that both the Howlin' Wolf one and the Rolling Stones one were fairly flexible when it came to the amount of bars they stayed on each chord. They kind of just played it how they felt it, and they sometimes stay on one chord a little bit longer, and sometimes they didn't all change chords at the same time. And that's kind of okay in that style, but it does make it kind of tricky to play along with a backing track. In a real band situation, you're kind of feeling it as a group, but when you're playing it on your own or with people that you don't know so well, or with a backing track, then it becomes a little more difficult. So I've kind of knocked it into form to be a 12-bar blues, but not a traditional 12-bar blues. It goes on the 4 chord for 2 bars, back to the 1 chord for 2 bars, back to the 4 chord for 2 bars, back to the 1 chord for 2 bars, then 5, 4, 1, 1. It's a fairly kind of standard 12-bar blues sequence, but it's not the standard like quick change blues or whatever, that kind of 12 bar. It's still got 12 bars in the sequence. You know what I mean, right? So first things first, it's in open G tuning. The tuning from the thicker string to the thinner string is D, G, D, G, B, and D. Now, I've got whole lessons on how to get into open G and exactly what that means. We're not going to be playing the thicker string in this song at all, which is the reason that Keith Richards famously played his 5-string Telecaster. The root note for open G is actually on the 5th string. The thicker string is a low 5th, but we don't tend to use it in open G tuning much. I'm not going to go through too much detail about how to play slide guitar. You might want to go and check out one of my slide guitar primer lessons to really get to grips with how to hold the slide, how to press it, choosing a slide, choosing what finger you put it on. All of that sort of stuff is kind of important, but beyond the stretch for this lesson. Let's get to a close-up and check it out. The intro riff, it's used throughout the song. Slide is going above the 5th fret. Remember, you're going right above the fret, not behind it where you would normally put your fingers. And I'm using thumb, first finger and second finger to pluck strings 4, 3 and 2 here. Okay, sometimes you can put a little slide up to it, sometimes you're going to start right on it. It just depends on how you're feeling it at the time. Then it goes to the 3rd fret, then open, same strings. Now your slide's sliding up to the 12th fret, again right above the fret itself. Now the one difference here is the strings I'm picking are the 4th string, the 2nd string, and the thinner string now. So I've just moved my 1st and 2nd fingers over. That 3rd string's going to ring out a little bit by itself anyway. It's not like I'm deliberately trying not to do it. It's just I want to hear that top note and I want to hear that note. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, and 2, 3, 4 and 1. Now obviously here you want some nice vibrato going on here at the 12th fret. The big deal again, if just to touch on a few of these things, keep the thumb stationary. It's normally right behind, but I'm going to leave it above just so you can see it. But the thumb is staying still, not moving my whole hand like that to get the vibrato. Looks like my thumb's moving now, so I can see on the little camera screen. But now, normally for these things, you want to have the 1st and 2nd fingers pressing behind the slide in order to mute these parts behind, because there are notes behind the slide as well as on this side, and there's one here. You don't always want to hear those notes, so very often, like, I've got my 1st and 2nd fingers touching behind the slide to keep those quiet. Now on the 12th fret, the note on either side, because it's exactly halfway, the notes on either side of the slide are exactly the same. So the mute there is less important. Sometimes I add it in, but more commonly, just for that little bit, I don't, because it kind of adds a nice... You hear there's a difference. It's kind of more chimey without the fingers behind. Okay, and you want to get that vibrato, so... And I think on the Stones version, there's a little slide up here to the 17th fret on the thinner string. But again, noticing that the thumb now is muting all of the strings except the thinner string. My 1st finger is doing that pick, because in slide guitar you've got to mute every string that you don't want heard. Okay, so the intro, 2, 3, 4 and 1, and 2, 3, 4 and 1, and 2, 3. 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. When you move to the 4 chord, there are actually lots of different ways of doing it. You can have a very small slide into it, a very long slide into it. You can slide into it and play another note. A lot of it's just down to you feeling it in that given moment. Obviously, I played in a Rolling Stones tribute band for a long time, so I actually sat down and studied exactly what Brian Jones did. Was a long time ago, not saying that I can remember it all, but the fact that there are lots of different ways that he uses it within the same song shows you that it's just a little bit about the feeling of it. So what I'd encourage you to do is listen to the original recording a bit, try and figure out maybe some of the different versions, see what kind of grabs you, what resonates with you, and use that. But also just get used to the idea that actually you can make it up. You can choose what way you're going to do it. So coming up to the 4 chord, you can have just a little slide from a fret or 2 below. Just playing again strings 2, 3 and 4 there. You could have a longer slide. Okay, for right back. That kind of thing. You can have... I quite like that. So playing strings 2, 3 and 4. But just as we get to the 5th fret, I'm playing the thinner string. Okay, in timing wise it can also be different. So if I go from 3, 4, 1. So I'm landing here on the beat. I'm playing that thinner string, starting the slide before 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2. Okay, so you could also go 1 and 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3. So whether you start the slide on beat 1 and end up at the correct point on the and after 1, or whether you start on the and after 4 and get to the right chord on 1, is that kind of, they're both options. As I said, you can also go kind of straight to the chord with very minimal sliding. You can do a double slide. I don't think that happens in the Rolling Stones version, but it's still an option, right? So 2, 3, So you can do that real slow one there. It's this style of music is very open for interpretation, for you to kind of experiment a little bit. Obviously, there's a form. Now, you know, getting into the Rolling Stones one, when they go to the 4 chord, sometimes they stay there a little bit longer, particularly on the Please, Please, Please Drive Me Home. They put an extra whole bar in there, right? There's often an extra bar right at the end as well. It's totally cool. You can do that. If you're going to play around with the bars, the whole band has to do it together, obviously, right? The backing track ain't going to listen to you. But anyways, okay, let's get back to this. So we've gone from the intro, 2, 3, to the 4 chord. I am a little red rooster. Now you can, it's another one as well, actually I should share, that's on the Stones one. So you go 3rd fret, 4th fret, and then the slide up. 2, 3, 4, triplet, 1, 2, 3, and again that one. 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Because I played in a Stones tribute band for so long, their arrangement is kind of what's etched into my musical imagination. So very often I play their arrangement by default. But I think for most people, most of the time, they tend to standardize it to a 12-bar blues. If you're playing it at a jam night, that's very likely to be what happens. For the whole band to be able to lurch together and stay on a particular chord a little bit longer or whatever is possible if everyone's following the singer, but it takes a little bit more experience to be able to handle that. Let's go from the verse again. So we're starting off on the 4 chord for the verse. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2. You're just going to do that twice. If you're sticking to the standard 12 bar, then back to the 4 chord. You see my little red rooster, too lazy to crow for day. 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4 to the 5. Okay, so the 5 chord is at the 7th fret. Now you can just 2, 3, 4 to the 4 chord, 2, 3, 4, and 1. Also with the 5 chord you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, triplet, 1. It's another Stones one. 1, 2, 3, 4, triplet, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. One more time through there. If you see my little red rooster, please drive him home. Just twice on that riff. Back to the 4 chord. If you see my little red rooster, please drive him home. 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. The 5 chord. Ain't no peace in the farmyard since my little red rooster's been gone. 2, 3, 4, and 1. So that would be a kind of standardized 12-bar blues arrangement. Like I said, if you're playing specifically the Stones one, you need to listen to their version and figure out where those extra bars are coming in. Kind of follows the vocal. Okay, again with the Howlin' Wolf one, the same thing. It's just following the singer. The singer is the boss here, and the guitar player is just kind of following their arrangement, right? But it takes a lot of listening, a lot of concentration. It's kind of relaxed concentration because it needs to be relaxed and flowing and easy. And sometimes people don't always follow the singer as they should, but they kind of lurch their way around between it, kind of a beautiful way. So I would recommend starting off with a very strict form and then kind of gradually freeing it up if you happen to be playing in a band and you feel confident enough to be able to try that. But let me show you a couple of the little tricks that happen in the Rolling Stones one that I think are worth checking out. So the first one, the dogs begin a barking and the hounds begin a howl. So to get the howl, it's kind of tricky. You're sliding up, but you got to do your vibrato while you're gradually moving the slide down. I definitely don't do it anywhere near as good as Brian. Brian, particularly on that song, is really shining, I think, and he does a fantastic job of all of these extra parts. Okay, it's practice. Slide it up and try and drag it back. feels really weird for me to do it out of context, but that would be that happens so that dogs begin to bark, and there's no barks the first time. Hounds begin to howl. Dogs begin to bark, and okay, he's just howling. I'm here plucking strings 5, 4, and 3. Hounds begin to howl. Okay, so that's a nice little, to incorporate the hounds begin to howl and the barking dogs. That's kind of a nice little thing. One of the other things that happened a few times in it is like the intro, where he slides right up to the 17th fret. So okay. Now, one of the things when you're sliding that far up, you need to keep your eyes on where you're going. Don't follow the slide with your eyes, or it'll never really go right. By the time your eyes see that you're on the right fret and send the signal to stop, you'll be way past it. So target the point where it's going to. So I'm looking here. My eyes are looking right here. And I'm trying to target it first, and then the vibrato comes on. So get used to slide, then vibrato. Slide to get to the note, then put the vibrato on. Don't try and add the vibrato kind of as you go along. Target the note, then the vibrato. Really interesting thing about vibrato on slide is that you can go above and below the pitch. On regular guitar, when you're adding vibrato, you're always going above the pitch. But on slide guitar, you can go above and below, which I think gives it a really special, nice vocal kind of quality. So that's a nice exercise. Now, the other lick that you get in the Rolling Stones one, I think is really nice, happens right at the end, is this. Okay, so it's thinnest 2 strings, 15th fret, 14th fret, 13th fret, sliding up from the 11th to the 12th fret. Oh, that's first string and second string together. And then you play the third string. Now, there's lots of variations on the original one. I'm kind of adapting the arrangement, kind of quantizing it. I'm finding an easy starting point that you can practice a very specific thing. Again, if you want to go right down the rabbit hole of the Stones version, there's a lot to be learned. You'll learn it by listening, though. If you've got this and you know the framework, then you're just filling in the gaps, right? So the way I've always played it, I add that note the first time, second time I don't. Then I'm adding it. Now, just for this arrangement that I've done, I've added the 3 times going up to that little line, and then the band stops. It's an ending. It's not the Rolling Stones ending. It's just an ending that I've used for this particular song. But feel free to make up your own ending, of course, or change it up, or explore, do a proper solo there rather than just a little lick. There's a lot of freedom here to come up with your own version and explore doing your own things. Now, I just want to touch on the Howlin' Wolf one as well, because the Howlin' Wolf version is considerably different. It's definitely where the Stones kind of got their version from, but he's playing it differently. He's fretting it and doing the slide. I'm not actually sure if it's Howlin' Wolf playing the slide guitar part on this, or whether it's Hubert Sumlin or someone else. There were quite a few guys in the Chicago scene that might have been filling those shoes. I'll probably research it, and you'll find some information on the website for those doing my blues immersion. So the Howlin' Wolf version starts with the first finger in the first fret of the second string, second finger, second fret of the fourth string, which plays that twice. This is the fifth string, fourth, third, and second, all the middle strings, off. Then third fret on the third string. Of course, you've got to make sure everything's muted. So my pick and hand is muting everything except that third string. So sliding up to the third fret, open, and then 8th fret on the second string. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. 4 and 1. Now the Howlin' Wolf version, as far as when he goes to the 4 chord, is very free. It starts off kind of consistent, going to the 4 chord for the verse, much like the Rolling Stones one, but then he does a whole verse where he just stays on the 1 chord for a chunk. So again, now that you know the bones of the tune and you know where to put your fingers roughly, it's just going to be about listening and trying to pick out the elements of the particular versions that you really like. Most of the more modern versions are consistently a 12-bar blues, so those ones are kind of maybe a little bit easier to get your head around. Otherwise, it's just about listening, trying to figure it out. You know, you'll find very often, if you want to go down the rabbit hole of the traditional versions, there's a lot to learn, a lot of cool things going on. And I love the Rolling Stones version, the way that it's manipulating that 12-bar form to not be consistent. The fact that it really relies on the please, please, please driving home is just lovely, extending that little bit. It's beautifully done, you know. And it's the same with the Wolf version, the way it's kind of everyone's lurching around together. It's beautiful music. But it's kind of difficult to do that. And as a starting point, I think it's a lot easier to learn with a specific form and then steal the bits that you like. If you're playing it on your own, you're free as a bird. You can add in bars, you can take away bars, and I'd encourage you to just feel it out and see how you go. But I think the one thing that is consistent that maybe some beginners struggle with a little bit is keeping the beat consistent. So Stones, Wolf, whoever, Robert Johnson, where they're doing stuff where there's extra beats going on in the bars or extra bars, the beat, the actual, is consistent, right? If you start muddling around with that too much, things start to feel a little bit wonky. There were great musicians that do fiddle with that, but I think most of them are fairly consistent with keeping a pulse, keeping a foot stamp going, so you could kind of dance along to it, even if there were extra beats going on at different times. I do think Little Red Rooster is a really, really fantastic song for people getting into slide guitar, for exploring open G. It's a little bit forgiving if some of the extra strings ring out. It's not so important, but it also gives you a chance to kind of refine playing single notes, being able to play 2 notes at the same time, experimenting with the way that you get to the different chords, the 1, 4, and the 5 chord. But of course, because you've already got the 1, the 4, and the 5, you could experiment with playing a regular 12-bar blues as well. I think, really, really good vehicle for experimenting and learning about slide guitar and open G tuning. Really hope you enjoyed this one. If you're into your blues, do go and check out the Justin Guitar Blues Immersion 6-month intensive blues program that we got running on the website. Really proud of the course itself. I've learned tons in the process of writing the course, and great feedback from the students on it so far. So do go and check it out. Opens up twice a year if you're interested in. You sign up for the wait list and get an invite when it opens up. I think that's all I've got for you on this tune. Have yourself a fantastic day, and I'll see you plenty more very soon. Bye bye.